All right, guys, I want to show y'all something today that I've worked on for the last year, trying to have a little bit of success with it, and now in my own nursery, growing more and more and more of my own plants, needing to propagate more and more and more of my own things. This is a Limelight hydrangea in tree form. So, yep, it's the same DNA, same plant of a Limelight hydrangea, but we're trying to grow these and propagate these into the form of a tree. So I want to show you some things about this and how you might do this. These things command a premium price tag, so it's something that I would really like to have at least a few of in my nursery. So check this out as we go forward. All right, guys, I want to go back with you just about 2 months. This is around January the 1st to the 2nd. Our very last thing that we did at our old house and in our old nursery before we moved here is literally right before we drove away. I stopped and got all of our Limelight hydrangea cuttings and what few dappled willow cuttings that we had left. And you can see these long cuttings here. I don't even know how long they are, maybe 3 feet long, some of these cuttings. And the reason that I brought those here to our new nursery was so that I could make more baby limelights with them. But specifically, I want to try to turn these into Limelight hydrangea trees, and that's why I kept them as long cuttings. So when I took those cuttings and brought them here, I just heeled them into our mulch pile. When I say heeled them in, I mean I just stuck them into a temporary spot, almost as if I was planting them. So I just stuck them in, buried the bottoms in mulch, and they've been sitting here ever since. Here's our dappled willows. You can see they're leafing out like crazy. And these are the Limelight. So this is literally the first time I've touched these since around January the 1st. And here they are. And I don't know how many of these there are. I'd say there's probably at least 50 of them. And they may be even longer than I thought. These may be 3 to 3.5 feet long, some of them. So what we're going to do, I just zip tied them together, bundled them up, and I want to show you at least what I have done to try to turn these into these really awesome Limelight trees, and maybe how we can be a little bit more successful with this year. So I'm back at my potting table with my potting soil, and I've got these long cuttings here, and really what I want to do is I'm going to take the bottom of this cutting, and I have no idea if this is necessary, but I'm going to give it a fresh end. This has been sitting in potting soil now or sitting out there in my mulch pile for, 8 weeks or whatever, basically the whole winter. And I'm going to cut it off, and I'm not measuring this, but I'm just going to give it just a fresh end. So is that necessary? Again, I really don't know. It's just what I'm doing, and I don't really know how long that is either, but it looks like it'd be long enough to make a little small tree trunk to me. So let me show you what I'm going to do with this cutting. I'm just going to take one of my trade gallon pots that I pot just virtually all of my stuff in and put a little bit of potting soil in there. And it's just my regular potting soil mix. And this is, maybe a third full, and I don't know if it matters how full it is. And I'm going to stick that down in there just like that. And I know that kind of looks weird. And if you think that looks weird, I agree that it looks weird, but all I'm going to do is take this pot and fill it up with potting soil. And I'm going to fill it up pretty good. And I'm also going to pack it down pretty good, because you don't want the wind vibrating this and moving this around, because that's really rough on a plant that's trying to take root. Now, this is obviously dormant wood right now. I'm just going to eyeball that and look at it and see if it looks more or less straight up. And I'm going to set it as straight as I can get. It's got a little curve in it, and that's okay. It gives it a little bit of character. And I'm going to water this, and then I'm going to put it in the shade, and I'm going to leave it alone. And I'm not going to do anything to it. Now, let me amend that statement by saying that's what I did with these last year. So before we move forward with this, let me show you what happened last year. Now, this is one that I actually tried last year. It's in a slightly smaller pot, and that doesn't matter, but I tried 10 of these last year just to see if this would work at all, or if it was just a dumb idea or what. And I'd say that out of those 10, I think 8 of them, maybe even 9 of them, leafed out. And all along the branch here, they leaf out. And, so that's obviously good, but by the time it started getting really warm in the summer, maybe 5 of them still looked like they were alive. And by the time we got to the end of the summer, there were only 3 alive. And this spring, I say spring now, it's the last day of February, first day of March. Now I have 2 of those original 10 that are still alive from last year. Now this was the one that I just potted up that I was just showing you. But this one is actually one from last year. And if you look right up here at the top of it, you can see some growth that it began to put on. It actually branched, and you can see right there that I actually pruned that last year. I actually pruned it right there last year. So it actually put on some growth, and it actually has roots down in the pot. So I do know for sure that this will work to root these, and I can see all along the stem that there are buds beginning to come alive. You can come along here and you can scratch the bark a little bit off, and you can see that it's green beneath there, beneath the cambium layer there, and you can see that, and I know that this is alive. And what I need to do is put this into a bigger pot, straighten it up, and this should grow out. And I can't wait to show y'all this and to see if this works, you know, in a few weeks or a few months, to see if this thing's turning into a viable tree. So this plant from last year, that was rooted from last year, this is in a 2-quart pot, and I really hope that this year, really this whole growing season, this thing puts on a tremendous amount of growth. But I want to take it out of here. I'm really kind of anxious to see this myself and see how these roots look. Okay, so there's not a ton of roots. All right, but there are some roots, and you can see them, and they kind of look like the little small white or yellow hairs there almost. But I'm still going to take this and pot it into this larger pot, and in doing so, it will be happy all year long. All through the spring, through the summer, and through the fall, it will be completely happy here. And we're going to kind of be very gentle with this, just because it's not super well rooted. And that's just my regular potting soil. All year long, this will just continue to grow in here. It's not going to get overly root bound in here. In just this its second year, I'm trying to kind of straighten it up here as I go so it's not leaning quite so much. I just want to kind of shake that down, pack it down fairly well, not too tight. And I'm just going to sit this out here in the shade house with so many of my other plants. I'm going to fertilize it, and I'll wait until the weather warms up a little bit for that, and just let it do its thing. And we're going to keep an eye on this, and I'm really anxious to see how this does through the growing months. Now we've got it completely potted and straightened it up as much as we can. It's got a little bit of a curve in it, which is completely fine. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really going to be ready to go. Now, one other thing worth mentioning here, like for this one that I just potted up, this is just an unrooted cutting here. I'm going to take this, once it starts really getting warm and this thing starts really trying to leaf out, I'm going to take this and I'm going to cover it in a plastic hoop, just in a low tunnel. And all of my Limelight tree cuttings that I'm trying to make this year, I'm going to keep them covered in a plastic hoop in more of a humid environment. So they're going to be covered in white plastic with a shade cloth on top of that. And I think that may be the key to getting a higher success rate. I'm not sure. So like I said, I've got 2 out of 10 from last year. I probably got, I don't know, 50 or something of these to try, and I'm going to try them all and just see how this goes. And hopefully we can get 10 or 20 of them to root and have ready to be at this point this time next year. Ever since the Limelight hydrangea came off patent about 2 years ago, this has become a real go-to plant in a lot of nurseries. It has in mine, because now they're free to patent without legal issues and blah, 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 all the stuff pertaining to patent that you're probably familiar with. But one of the things that you might try is trying to start you out some Limelight trees, some Limelight standards. And I'm really hoping to, I don't want to say perfect it, because I'm not ever going to perfect anything, but I'm really hoping to improve my success rate on this year and going into the next year, so maybe this can become a real staple item in my nursery. So guys, as we move closer and closer and closer to our opening day, again, whenever that is, we don't know, we're going to let the weather determine that for us, but as we move closer and closer, there's still all of these projects left to do. We're potting, but yes, it's hardwood propagation season as well. Lots and lots of things to do, and this is one of them, and we wanted to just share it with you today. So listen, we appreciate y'all watching today, just like we always do. I love y'all, and I'll see you on the next one.